It's that show that you know and love. It's that show that you know and love. It's that show that you remix. It's that show that you know and love. It's that show that you know and love. It's that show that you know and love. It's Black and Educated with Jay. What's up? So y'all, my dumbass didn't notice that I'm wearing a green shirt. So enjoy the episode. Hey guys, it is Shay London. I am piecing in. What is good? What is tea, y'all? How are you guys doing? Okay. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that, y'all. Okay. So y'all, welcome to Black and Educated Season 2. I'm Jay London. I'm 23 years old. I talk about all the things that you don't want to talk about. So if you have a crazy case that you want me to dive into, please let me know. Email me. You can email me. Everything, all my info is always in the description down below. So check that out. Y'all, it is kind of weird just jumping in without singing in the beginning, because you guys already know that I sing in the beginning of my videos, but I made the jingle, so it's like, it's fine. Let me know how you guys feel about that intro, but I got a lot of stuff to do. My sister's coming down to visit, and I'm so excited, so I gotta cook, I gotta clean. Let's just dive in. So, you guys already know. Go grab your cup of coffee, go grab a cup of tea, go grab a shot of vodka, whatever you like throughout this whole video, okay? It's gonna be it's just gonna be a heavy video. Mostly all my videos are pretty heavy, so it's cool. But, so, as you guys already know, last video I talked about quotas. I talked about how certain policing, they have quotas, they have certain tickets, a certain amount of numbers, a certain amount of arrests that they have to do each month in order to grow within the police system, in order to become a detective, a chief, a super, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Today I'm gonna talk about part 2 of mass incarceration, okay? And another thing that I found fishy, we're gonna talk about the war on drugs, we're gonna talk about Nixon. Let's just dive in, okay? Are y'all ready? Yay! I swear to God, I heard like a whole crowd be like, yeah. A lot of my information from this beautiful read that I'm still reading, because I think it's about 142 pages long. It's this whole study done by ACLU.org. It's gonna be in the description down below. Check it out. Check it out. It's called A Tale of Two Countries, Racially Targeted Arrests in the Era of Marijuana Reform. It's a very long read, and it's a bit scattered, so just watch part 1 and part 2 if you really don't want to go through that, because I read it for you. But definitely check that out. But that's where I get a lot of my numbers, a lot of statistics from. But yeah, in 2018, there were almost 700,000 marijuana arrests, which accounted for more than 43% of all drug arrests. So this surpasses heroin, this surpasses crack, this surpasses coke, this surpasses methamphetamine. 43%, okay? In 2018, police made more arrests for marijuana possessions than all violent crimes combined. Than all of them. Okay, that's cool. It's fine. It's fine. So, if you didn't know, people of color are 3.64 more times more likely to be arrested than white people, even though we smoke at the same amount. And this is scientifically proven. This is study proven. And it's also said that white people, white youth abuse drugs way more, but yet the only people that really deal with the repercussions are minority youth, Latino youth, Black youth. And let's be real, how many times have you been like, that's some white people shit? Sorry, YouTube, I hope you guys don't come for me, but how many times are you guys like, that's the caucasity? I get caught all the time, because you know it's the truth, okay? But it's fine. It's cool. I'm just throwing it out there. So where did this all begin? Like, where did this all stem from? We're going to have to go back in time to the 90s. My editing ain't that good just yet. So it's like, we are in the debate. We are in the run. We're in campaigning, okay? Guess who's on one side? Mr. Kennedy. Guess who's on the other? Nixon. Richard Nixon. Okay, you guys all heard that name. Got a Nixon nigga out of here. Nixon. Got a Nixon nigga out of here. Anyways, Richard Nixon. I'm struggling because what a lot of people realize is that there's been a lot of Kennedy brothers within the office or working within the government. So a conspiracy, this isn't fact, this isn't proof, don't come for me, don't kill me. But they say that the Kennedys rigged a lot of the system. They had a lot of power into play. That is why there's a lot of brothers. The Kennedy brothers were in the office, so on and so forth, because the whole system was rigged. Nixon's campaign, they knew that. Richard Nixon knew that. He was like, how am I gonna get in the office? Like, what am I gonna promise to people? What am I gonna tell to people? You know, what is gonna be the main forefront of my campaign that people are gonna be like, no, we have to vote for him. He's gonna make the world a better place. He made the war on drugs. What is the war on drugs? The war on drugs was at the time that marijuana was at an all-time high. If you guys ever seen the musical Hair, it's a great musical, check it out. But a lot of the hippies, you know, in the 70s and the 80s would use marijuana because there'll be like freedom and peace, man. And Richard Nixon was really trying to like push that towards, you know, the hippies, okay? Then another drug came out, the raging 90s, okay? This was heroin and crack. And where would you find heroin and crack? You would find these in the lower income communities. But baby girl, that was placed there. Did I say baby girl? I'm so sorry. My babies, that was placed there, okay? That was placed there by Mr. Nixon, okay? That was placed there by the government, okay? Why? Because it's a system to fail. It's a vicious cycle. So, a person who explains this very well is John Earl Rickman. I think I said that right. It could be Earl Rickman. He was the right-hand man. He was the assistant to Nixon when it was about domestic affairs, which is super weird, but because he was crazy. But anyways, he stated in an interview, and I'm telling you, as soon as you hear this, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. I'm also gonna have it right there on the screen, but you know what I'm talking about as soon as I say this, because we've all heard it before. He stated, and I quote, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be against the war. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news." So let me just pause. There's more to it. But when he said vilify on the evening news, you know, this is back in the day that people are going to listen to magazines, they're going to listen to the news, whatever's on at 6 o'clock, you know, so people are going to listen to the news. This is the only place that they're getting all their information. It's the 90s. It's not like nowadays that all this information is coming out about. Okay? Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. Ain't that some... Okay? He went on the record to say this, and a lot of people knew this. A lot of people within this campaign knew the lie. A lot of people within the news, a lot of people in power knew what this was gonna do. Why? Because it's just like slave patrol, like I've said it before. Why was the policing and all this stuff put into play from the beginning? It was to control a certain group or groups of people. Okay, how you control a certain group, you put a certain drug within the communities. What's that community gonna do? It's gonna make a downfall of that powerful people. Oh, and another thing is, you know, we gotta think. We gotta really, really, really think. Once you go to jail once, you know, when you get out of that, it's gonna be so hard to involve yourself back into society. It's gonna be so hard for you to get a job, go back into that normal life, and it gets me so angry. And it costs so much money, fees, lawyers, all of that stuff. So if all of this stuff was already initiated from the jump, you know, it's like a whole vicious cycle. Like, you can't get out of it. You can't get out of it. I'm gonna give you a case so that what I just said can make sense, because I know it probably didn't make that much sense. But one thing that I love to see is when people initiate good and others follow. So Cyrus Vance, he's a district attorney in Manhattan. Shout out to you. He's a cool guy. He instituted a decline to prosecute policy on marijuana possession and consumption cases. Because, okay, heroin, crack, meth, all those other heavy drugs that aren't plant-based, that were man-made, you know, that's a whole different story, you know. That makes you a whole different person, you know. Addiction is also so high within the minority community. So it's like you put all of those things into play, and it's like a whole potion of fuck up. You know what I mean? One thing that the war on drugs forgot to realize, and you know, we're taught this in school from a very young age, is supply and demand. Okay, supply and demand. I remember when I first heard of supply and demand, I think I was like, I don't know, I thought it was like a joke for some reason. We're not even gonna go into that. Have to tackle the supply first, okay? Why? Because when the supply runs out, the demand goes high. The demand for that certain product is gonna be at all-time high, and they're gonna take whatever they can get. The people that are demanding it, they're gonna do whatever they can to get it, okay? So people think that they have to knock out the supply first. Baby, you gotta tackle that demand first, because you gotta realize the supply is always gonna keep coming. You could try and keep tackling all these people. You could try and keep knocking down these big heroin pharmaceuticals, pharma companies. You can try and knock out all of these heroin users, blase, blase, blase. Try to take out all the chemicals from that make, all the components that make the certain drug, heroin, crack. You know, you always try to knock down those people, try to arrest them, so on and so forth. But you gotta realize that demand is always at an all-time high. There's always gonna be suppliers. There's always gonna be people coming up. People making new ways of the drugs of being more potent, so on and so forth. So if you don't knock the supply and demand first, you don't tackle that first, you're not gonna have a successful life or government. I don't even, like, do you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you guys get the words that are coming out of my mouth? Supply and demand, okay? You gotta realize you knocked down Pablo Escobar and his cousin Rachel Escobar is probably already making the whole new batch for you guys. It's making a whole new supply. So the supply is always gonna be there. Okay? On top of that, the demand is always gonna be there. So we gotta do what Switzerland did. And Switzerland isn't mentioned a lot because Switzerland is a neutral country. They don't give a fuck about us. They're like, we love everyone. We're peaceful. Don't bring that negative shit over here. And I love that about Switzerland. I would love to visit. But Switzerland did go through a drug epidemic.
In the 1980s, Switzerland experienced a public health crisis related to heroin use. HIV rates skyrocketed and street crime became a problem. Swiss authorities tried a new strategy: harm reduction. They opened free heroin maintenance centers where addicts would be treated and stabilized. Here, people would be given free heroin of high quality, they would get clean needles and have access to safe injection rooms, showers, beds and medical supervision. Social workers helped them find housing and deal with other problems in their lives. The results were a sharp drop in drug-related crime, and 2/3 of the people in the centers got regular jobs because now they could focus on getting better instead of financing their addiction. Today, over 70% of all heroin addicts in Switzerland receive treatment. HIV infections have dropped drastically. Deaths from heroin overdoses have dropped by 50%. And drug-related street sex work and crime has been reduced enormously. So there are
still have these different ways of helping addiction, of helping Switzerland. Like Switzerland, y'all got it. Y'all know where it's at. Y'all so smart. You know, instead of punishing these people that have addiction, which is such a big problem, okay? It's a real problem. Instead of vilifying them, what they're gonna do is they're gonna help them. And that is what we need. When you get arrested, when you go to jail, when you go to trial, whatever it is, that costs thousands on thousands on thousands on thousands on thousands of dollars, okay? Right now, the drug industry is about $30 billion from distributing to possession to trafficking, so on and so forth. That's the amount of revenue. So every time you get arrested, every time you go to jail, every time you get prosecuted, every time you have anything to do with the law, you get charged for that. You get a court summons, you get tickets, so on and so forth. So imagine going to jail or getting arrested for having a gram on you, right? And they give you about 10 years, and later on they find out they give you parole, 2 years, so on and so forth. You know, you go to jail, you go out, you have fees that you're expected to pay. Thousands on thousands on thousands. How are you expected to pay those fees when you just got out of jail with a dumbass charge that you shouldn't have been convicted with, and then you're supposed to be reacclimated into society to be a better person, to be a good person, but society doesn't give you the tools to become a better person. Like, you know, you can't get a normal job, you can't really go back to school, you can't get housing. What can you do? How do these people get back into going to jail or into that same lifestyle that got them into it in the first place? It's because it's a vicious cycle. You know what I mean? How are you supposed to go back into this world and become a better person when you don't have the opportunity to do so? The only way that you do, that you can see a tunnel just to help your family, your kids, you know, is getting back into that old lifestyle of selling, of distributing, of whatever it is. And then you just don't grow, and then guess who keeps making more money from it? The state. So Patricia Spotted Crow, she was a Native American woman from Oklahoma. And September 10th, 2010, she was arrested for selling, she was arrested for $31 worth of weed. Okay, September 10th, 2010. Okay, I get it. 12 years ago. I get it. I'm not biased. It's cool. I understand the time. But it was $31 worth of weed. That's not even an eighth. An eighth is $35. She had no prior convictions at all. Not even a speeding ticket. And just for having $31 worth of weed, she was sentenced to 10 years for a distribution charge. $31 worth. Plus another 2 years for possession, bitch. So there was a police informant, like somebody hidden, goes, it's like when you go and get a prostitute and they go to your car and they be like, police. And you're like, oh my God. So a police informant showed up and bought an $11 bag of weed from Patricia, right? An $11 bag of weed. First of all, I ain't never met a plug that gonna give me $11 and instead of like, that is besides the point. A week later, he went back and he bought $20. Okay? Okay? And mind you, they did search the property and that was the only bit of weed that they had. The first $11, then the $20 that he bought a week later. That was substantial evidence that she was a drug dealer and her mom lived this lifestyle. And that's when they arrested her. So that is how they got the $31 worth of weed. That is how they got the 12 years. That just don't make sense. It don't make sense. Get out of jail and how are you supposed to live a normal life? She had a felony for $31 worth of weed. And then, you know, you see these people and like, it just breaks my heart because it's like, you want people to fail. You want, we need a solution. We need to be like Switzerland, okay? We need to have those rehabilitation centers into play. We need to make a difference. We need to make a difference. But yeah, hopefully that made sense for y'all. Hopefully I could put a little bit more into perspective for you. Definitely check out the description down below for more information, for good reads, for all that good stuff. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I gotta go cook. I gotta go food shopping. Oh, I'm so excited. But y'all, if you see anyone going through a rough time, please tell them everything's gonna be okay. I know times are tough right now, but just fist pound them. Just tell them everything's gonna be okay. I'm just out of it today. I don't know. I'm like a little bit scatterbrained. It's cool. It's fine. But y'all, hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye. Wah! Ow.